streaming on, YouTube, we're on, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. Guys, listen, I'm going to start with breaking news from the Middle East. It does look like the ceasefire in Gaza City is over now. There's an article out on the BBC. This is nothing involving the nothing involving the Israeli army. Clashes erupt between Hamas forces and armed clan members in Gaza City. Now, what I'm reading into this, and look, guys, these are big clashes. This is 27 people have been killed. Now, those numbers, they kind of, 27 people killed pales in significance of the death toll in Gaza. But when you think about that, guys, when there's supposed to be a ceasefire in Gaza and there's armed clashes and 27 people are left dead, can you imagine in the United Kingdom if there was armed clashes in the United Kingdom and it left 27 people dead? That would, guys, listen, and what I'm going to get at here is, here in the United Kingdom, I'm going to come on to the raising conflict in the Middle East in a moment, guys, between Pakistan and Afghanistan. What I'm going to raise the broader question: we have a lot of these communities now living in the United Kingdom. We have a lot of, we have a lot of Pakistanis living in the United Kingdom. We have a lot of, now we have a lot of Gazans living in the United Kingdom. We have a lot of Indians. We have a lot of Afghans living in the United Kingdom. I'm considering, and it's an open question right now, ladies and gentlemen, are these conflicts going to spread to the streets of the United Kingdom like we saw in Leicester? I mean, God, what was that, over a cricket match or something? So look, guys, it does look like the ceasefire in Gaza City is over. Armed clashes between Hamas forces and armed clans. I don't know what that means, guys. I'm going to give you guys a summary now from the BBC, and when more updates come out, I will update you guys, and then I'm going to jump onto the main crux of this video, which is going to be the war that's breaking out right now between Pakistan and Afghanistan. So at least 27 people have been killed in clashes between Hamas and Gaza City clans since the end of the major Israeli operations in the territory. So it turns out these guys are going to fight each other anyway. And this is from an article from the BBC, guys, which was, well, it's a live article. I'm reading from the BBC. Residents describe scenes of panic as dozens of families fled their homes under heavy gunfire, many of them displaced multiple times during the war, our Gaza correspondent reports. It comes as Israel is waiting for Hamas to release the remaining hostages under the terms of the new ceasefire deal. Guys, this ceasefire deal, if it's not already broken, because they're still fighting, they're still, and what I'm getting at here, guys, and what the theme of this video is going to be is, here in the United Kingdom, we have lots of different, wonderful, beautiful communities, and they're all living in harmony with each other. What I'm getting at here is, guys, as the more conflicts rage out of control in the Middle East, are those things going to be spread onto the streets of the United Kingdom? Look, guys, I'm not convinced this ceasefire is going to last. I just hope those hostages get released and get back to their families. Taking hostages is never an act of, it's never a military. It's never a military objective to take hostages, civilian hostages. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, Right, guys. Look, I'm gonna give a relatively comprehensive monologue here. Now, I'm gonna be talking about the Afghanistan-Pakistan conflict. That, like, if you guys have got social media, you can't not see what's happening there. Now, just off the top of my head, Afghanistan does have a lot of untapped minerals. Lithium, copper, iron, gold, cobalt. Now, the lithium, or is it the cobalt? The lithium, so the main lithium deposits are in a region called Panjar, which is northern Afghanistan, the Panjar mountain range. Now, in that Panjar mountain range, guess what? Bagram Airport is nestled right there in the middle of that. So I don't know if that's going to have any relevance to Donald Trump and when he's saying he wants Bagram back. Also, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is traveling to Sharm el-Sheikh tomorrow for this, I don't know, some talk or something. And I did a video earlier on TikTok and I said, look, I don't see the likelihood of anyone getting to Donald Trump. Like, I just don't see it. If it is going to happen, it's going to happen in a place like Sharm el-Sheikh, where the odds are, you know, the odds are less in the United States' favor. Let's face it, nothing's going to happen in the United States. They've got too many resources, too many three-letter agencies they can call, and you can get so much support there. In Sharm el-Sheikh, you've only got the guys on the ground with you. And look, guys, I'm not taking anything away with those guys. Those guys are fantastically capable. Those guys are fantastically competent, and they will be able to look after Donald Trump. But what I'm saying is, if there's ever a strike point for Donald Trump, it's Sharm el-Sheikh tomorrow in Egypt. Right, let's just jump onto this, guys, and talk about Afghanistan. So I'm going to talk to you guys now about the conflict that's brewing between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Guys, I need to keep checking my phone because at some point I may need to run into the house. Well, I will need to run into the house at some point and put some wood back on the fire. So the conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I'm going to give this as the perspective with India as the elephant in the room and the communities here in the United Kingdom. Remember, guys, we have massive Indian, Pakistani, Afghani communities. Whether you agree with that or not, we do. We have those communities here in the United Kingdom. So let's continue. So we're going to dive into the volatile situation in South Asia. The escalating tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan, what that means for their neighbor India and here in the United Kingdom. You know, I mean, we are, how do I put this? We are home to a vibrant, law-abiding, fantastic Pakistani, Afghani, and Indian communities, you know. So these events that are happening thousands of miles away, they will hit a lot closer to home because a lot of these people will have tribal ties back to that region. So like we saw in Leicester, where you had gangs of Pakistanis fighting with gangs of Indians on the streets, that is a thing that I believe could erupt on the streets in the United Kingdom. So let's break this down, guys, and let's give this in the context of the legacy of the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan. 2021, there was the big withdrawal from Afghanistan, US-led withdrawal. It was a cluster. It was an absolute cluster. Absolute cluster. It was like Colonel Cluster and his cluster brigade. It was probably one of the worst military operations I'm not going to get onto that, guys, but what I want you guys to understand is the amount of kit and equipment that was left behind. I'm talking about heavy weapon systems. I'm talking about trucks. I'm talking about armor. The more expensive kit and equipment, the drones, any aircraft, Black Hawks, there's that, what's the airplane they use for, I can't remember. You know, any of that stuff, regardless of what you think, those things need servicing, those things need spare parts, they won't be able to be used. But the trucks, absolutely, they will be able to be used. The small arms, M4 assault rifles, M16 assault rifles, squad automatic weapons, MG40, not MG42s. Is it? No, the 7.62 belt fed that the United States use. All sorts of ammunition and munitions were left behind. Now, when we talk about this conflict, you guys will hear a lot of people talking about something called the Durand Line. Now, guys, look, if you want an example, a geopolitical example of how not to draw a country's boundary, the Durand Line is perfectly, like, you know, the Durand Line, that is the perfect example of how not to draw a country's borders. Now, the Durand Line is basically the border on to the east of I was going to say Ukraine then, to the east of Afghanistan, to the south and to the east of Afghanistan with Pakistan. Now that's splitting up obviously Pakistan from Afghanistan. It's old. It's it's an old colonial relic. You know, it cuts through rugged mountains and tribal lands. And that's key here, guys, because like I keep saying, people who don't understand, people who say they understand the Middle East don't understand the Middle East. The Middle East is very tribal, all right? Afghanistan is tribal. Pakistan is tribal. The Afghanis, they've never really accepted the Durand line because it divides those Pashtun communities. So Pashtun is Pashtun, sorry. Pashtun would be the tribal communities, and they speak Pashtun. Now that creates a mix of cultural ties and territorial disputes. That because of that border, guys, because they didn't think it through when they drew that border. They drew that border with reference to their weapon systems, and that's the reality. Now, that line is at the heart of today's conflict. Right, guys, give me a second. Give me a second, guys. I'm just going to run into the house. And take my jumper off because it's getting really hot. Right, I'm going to get some questions now, guys. I'm going to jump over to YouTube. Trevor Pritchard is saying Russia are now using 3 old tanks to make 1. That means they only have 12,000 of reserves of their old tanks. Guys, listen, the battlefield in Ukraine, the battlefield in eastern Ukraine, all these headlines that come out, everything you see, hear, and read on the paper, take it all with a pinch of salt. Look at what's actually happening on the ground. You know, look at what's actually happening on the ground with the concept of the ground that the Russians are taking every day. Who would have guessed Pakistan bombing the Taliban? Well, we don't know that's happened. I will come on to that, guys. The Taliban have accused the Pakistanis, and I don't know what I don't know what's actually happened. But the Afghan, well, I guess the Afghan Taliban have blamed. I don't know if you guys know this. There's Afghan Taliban and Pakistan Taliban. The Afghan Taliban, who are in control of Afghanistan, have blamed the Pakistanis of airstriking Kabul. Now, I can't find out whether they've done that or not. I guess they're keeping stum. Silly is saying, I promise you, you will have no UN condemnation and world outrage about that. I don't know about what that was in context to. Philip Gray is saying, who's coming to Antarctica tomorrow? Yeah, guys, listen, all these global events, they're bringing us closer and closer to Antarctica. They really are. Antarctica's coming, guys. Be under no illusion. Priv Caro, am I late? Is Gaza on again? Yeah, so guys, listen, if you're just joining right now, the crux of this live stream, ceasefire in Gaza is over. Now, this is as clashes have been erupting between Hamas and armed groups. Now, the BBC are calling it armed clans. I don't know what that means. I mean, a clan would be Scottish. Maybe a lot of Scottish people have gone out there. Here, wee Tinky. Let's get over to Gaza and we'll show these wee Hamas pumpers. We'll show them how to play the pipes. We'll show them how to play the pipes. Here, wee Freddy, you wee prick. We need some real firearms. You know, like AK-47s or something. Nay, I'll just take over their pipes. I don't know. They're calling it a clan. I'm calling it armed clashes. So it's probably going to be mobs. Angry. You've just got to understand the dynamic of certain people, and I do think this is a good. 27 people dead, guys. 27 people dead. That's a lot. And in a normal shootout, in a normal gunfight, every one person that gets the good news, you usually get about 7 people with injuries. You know, so you do the maths. Footlong Bong is saying, good to see you on again, buddy. Footlong Bong, I'm on every day, buddy. I'm on twice a day, 10 in the morning, 8 at night. Right, let me continue with this, guys, okay? So I've got quite a bit to get through so everybody can understand the conflict, the ongoing conflict between Afghanistan, Pakistan, how that's got the potential to draw in, I'm going to say Iran, how that's got the potential to draw in India. Remember India's significance in geopolitics. So what's going on then between Afghanistan and Pakistan? So since the Taliban took over in, 21, things have been rocky to say the least. Pakistan says the Taliban, the Afghan Taliban, is a safe haven for the, they're called the TTP, which is like the, I think it's like the Pakistani Taliban, and they're like, they've got like some allegiance with the Afghan Taliban, and they want to take over Pakistan. Anyway, that's a militant group behind 600 attacks on Pakistan this year alone. So you know that's a lot, guys. That is a lot. That is a lot of attacks. That's the highest in that's the highest in decades. 2,400 deaths reported by September 2025. Afghan, on the other hand, accuses Pakistan of airstrikes on their support and supporting the anti-Taliban insurgents. So, you can see this, this building up, this conflict building up. And I don't see it goes anywhere. I don't see it's going anywhere. And look, for the Pakistanis and the Afghanis that live here in the United Kingdom, this isn't just news to them. So imagine this, guys, right now. Imagine this. Just pretend. I don't know if this is happening. Imagine that you've got Pakistanis and you've got Afghanis, and they are, I don't know, let's say something wild, living in the same hotel. How do you think those dynamics are going to be? Like, how are those dynamics shaping up in that hotel? Or I don't know, if you've got a Pakistani community near a Afghani community, how do you think those tensions are going to go? Because these people all know people back home, maybe people who are affected, maybe people who are involved. Just this past week, things did get heated. 10th of October and 11th of October, I think it was, Pakistan reportedly, and again, I don't know if this is that, this is what the Afghans are saying, that the Pakistanis launched airstrikes on Kabul, targeting these, these leaders. Explosions, there were certainly explosions in Afghanistan. And the Taliban hit back hard, attacking Pakistani border posts, claiming to have seized those outposts and weapons. Fighting's been spilling on into this morning, and as I understand it, fighting is still going on out there. Very difficult to get the casualties and the numbers because both sides are playing things down or exaggerating things, as we've seen in all conflicts. Now, both sides, if you guys have looked online, and I've tried to see as many videos as I can, and like looking online, it's very difficult to try and find out what you're actually looking at. But there's lots of videos online of gunfire, people shooting, and it is heavy fire. I don't know what I'm looking at, guys. I can't tell what I'm looking at. Yes, I can see gunfire. It could be anywhere. It could be anywhen. I don't know what I'm seeing, guys. So, that's all I can tell you from that gunfire, from that footage we've seen. Courtney is saying, I'm more worried about Russia attacking us with the types of exercises that is going on in the United Kingdom at the moment. Yeah, so there's nuclear exercises going on in the United Kingdom at the moment. And look, guys, Courtney, I'm speaking directly to you, and I'm speaking to anyone who's worried about, missiles coming from a near-peer adversary or a peer adversary, it could be argued. I think that likelihood is low, like really, really, really low. I think the real threat, if you live in the United Kingdom, is the threat from sabotage, the threat from complicated terror attacks. Sorry, there's a new phrase for it now, isn't there? Marauding terror attacks. That's the new phrase now. And I don't know if you, Courtney, I don't know if you watched I think it was last night. Yeah, last night's live stream. On last night's live stream, so I'll just touch on it now. Last night's live stream, I gave a hypothetical scenario whereby there would be, grid down situation, weapons hot, marauding terror attack scenario, and what you would likely see. Now, there are so many different complexities to that, and it's very difficult to granulate that unless I get a granular question. But it would basically what we were saying here. One of the questions in that live stream last night was how long before we get military, because the reality is the police do not have the capacity to deal with this. For example, let's just say there's some Afghanis in the United Kingdom who have military experience. Let's just pretend that. I mean, we know that that's definitely not happening, don't we? We know that that's definitely not happening via secret flights. Oh, hang on. No, actually, that is happening. Sorry. Let's go with that fact then, that we have Afghanis in the United Kingdom with, quite competent military training, some of them. So they know how to use assault rifles effectively. They know how to use explosives effectively. They know how to use belt-fed weapons effectively. So we know that expertise is in the United Kingdom. Let's just, for example, say that some of those go crackers. The police do not have the capacity to deal with that, guys. So they're going to have to call the military in. That's going to take a minimum. If the ground is hot, it'll take 6 hours. If there's like a hostage situation, that's going to be like 24 hours, absolute minimum, before somebody's like, I don't know, abseiling upside down out of a helicopter or something, like dual wielding Mac 10s. Right, Cheer is saying Afghan versus Pakistan whirling turbine. I don't know what those two things are. And then Courtney is saying again, I know someone close to me at the minute, somewhere up north by the sea, and I don't want to say much about it on here. I know someone close to me on one at the moment. I don't know what that means, Courtney. I don't know what that means. But look, Courtney, don't say anything. Don't give any incrimination. If you guys know people who are serving in the military, I would rather you not comment and tell me where they are or what they're doing. It's a massive security risk. So just like we don't need to know that information. That information needs to be kept sensitive. Right, let's continue, guys. So obviously we're talking about the escalating conflict now in the Middle East, guys. Okay, so real quickly, let me go on for an update, because the ceasefire in Gaza has broken. The ceasefire is broken. Armed clashes have broken out between Hamas forces and armed clan members. Now, look, guys, I don't know what that means. I don't know what clan members means. I've no idea. The BBC are reporting at least 27 people have been killed. Let me just see if there's any live updates. No, none yet. So that's what we're leading with. Also, we're talking about the conflict, what's happening right now between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and the likelihood of India being dragged into that. So, since 2022, Pakistan's hit Afghan soil with airstrikes 3 times. Now, I don't know if we can count this one in Kabul, so I left that one out. 4 times if you're counting this one. 3 times, sorry, with airstrikes. Earlier this year, we saw clashes in Helmand. Major border crossings, have been shut. Strangling trade and logistics supply, pushing more refugees onto an already strained system. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, there's plenty of space for those people in the United Kingdom. Qatar and Saudi Arabia have had to step in to pause the fighting, But the Taliban's warning of retaliation keeps the tension high. For our Afghan communities here, many of them fled. Many of the Afghans we have in the United Kingdom right now fled this war. So it's obviously going to stir up those emotions. It's going to stir up those emotions, and they may decide to get real patriotic about Afghanistan when they see Pakistanis or something like that. But this is a grim reminder, guys. It's a real grim reminder, if you live in the United Kingdom, about the multi-meshed communities that we have. And these multi-mesh communities, I would say, are not always the easiest to untangle. So let's talk about one of these key factors, guys. You know, we can't talk about Afghanistan now and the Taliban now without talking about the masses of weapons left behind when the United States, the coalition, pulled out in 2021. And look, guys, for all you people, and I don't know if there's anybody watching here, for all you people who think the West are the bad guys, for all you people who think, like, you know, US forces are bad, oh, they're so bad, and those people, they want them out the country. Oh, those people want them out the country. They want the Americans gone. How scared would you have to be to hand you, like, how bad must those people be that Afghan women were handing their babies to US soldiers to try and get them out? How bad are they? Like, how bad are those guys? Like, realistically, how bad are they? People holding on to the landing gear to try and get out. Oh, you Americans, you coalition, you're so bad. You were so bad to us. Thank God you're going. Take my baby, please. Take my baby. Let me hold on to your landing gear. So, like, you're like, oh, right, hang on a minute. So we're supposed to hate ourselves over this. You know, look at what people are doing, guys. Look at what people are, you know, look at what's being done. Talk's cheap. Look at what action's being done. Which brings me back onto the Ukraine war. Russia's over. Russia's economy is about to collapse. You know, Russia don't have anything left. Russia's days away from collapsing. All the time they're taking more ground and firing more drones. So what's really happening? Look at what's actually happening, guys, not what people are saying. And just as a quick side quest, you can take that theory when you're watching the news. Don't listen to the news reporter, or listen to them, but look at the images and make your own mind up from those images, because it's hard to like doctor an image. Yes, of course you can do it. You can have crisis actors, you can have all sorts of other stuff. Think to yourself, could this be a crisis actor? Is it a wide shot? Or is it a narrow shot? If it's a narrow shot, you're like, okay, so what's just happening out there? You know, and there's a lot of information you can get, and you can get a lot of information, but you can find out a lot of information by the information that's not being shown. Anyway, sorry, let's continue. So, US says chaotic withdrawal in 2021. Just for context as well, guys. So British military were in Afghanistan for 2000. They weren't in Afghanistan for 2,000 years. British military were in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2021, which would be 20 years. 457 British military died in that occupation. Now consider that with the numbers that are in Ukraine. You kind of understand why I tell you guys that this coming war in Europe, remember, we're not going to be involved in the war in the Middle East. If you live in the United Kingdom, that's going to be the United States and Israel, potentially Saudi Arabia, maybe other regional allies. If you live in the United Kingdom, this is why I keep saying we're heading towards a global conflict on an industrial scale. The numbers are industrial, guys. The numbers really are industrial. Anyway, sorry. So after the US left in 2021, they left like mind-boggling amounts of weapons and munitions and stuff. You know, everything from, I I think they left like 40,000 vehicles. I think there was, of those 40,000 vehicles, I think there was like 10,000 Humvees or something. There were over, I think, like almost 500,000 small arms rifles and Belgian machine guns. There were like, I think there was like 80 aircraft. Obviously, those aircraft are not going to be used. You know, they will have dismantled those aircraft, taken out vital parts. That'll just be junk. You know, and even if they weren't junk, they need servicing. And I'm not sure that the Taliban have the capacity to fly those aircraft. Anyway, but the Taliban's arsenal went rocketing up, absolutely rocketing. Just with those vehicles, like I think it was 10,000 Humvees, just with 10,000 Humvees and the amount of small arms weapons and ammunition to go with that, you've got an army. Like, you have literally got an army. You've got a competent army. As far as I'm concerned, guys, look, all these fancy toys, kit and equipment, it's all dog shit anyway. You know, you literally need well-trained soldiers equipped with 5.56 and grenades. That's all you need. That is literally all you need. Anyway, this has made it very difficult for the Pakistanis to combat them because they have that new equipment. And again, you know, here in the United Kingdom, we know the cost of conflict. You know, our own history with military interventions of our own. You know, we understand how these things affect the people in those countries. So I'm going to do a shift now. So that's kind of like on a broad brush of what's been happening with Pakistan, Afghanistan. I'm going to get some questions, guys, and then I'm going to come on to I'm going to talk about India, Pakistan, because don't worry, India, Pakistan has not gone away. Those two guys do not need much of a push to go full out fisticuffs. Josh Jones, hello Josh Jones, is saying the Fabian takeover of Britain makes sense now. So a Fabian takeover would be a slow takeover where you do it piece by piece by piece by piece. You don't fight a big decisive battle. You take little battles. You take the little wins, a road. And then people are like, oh God, right, yeah, we haven't really got anything to fight left with. But yeah, that is the Fabian way. Endeavour to Preserve is saying, would you like another banana? No, I'm good. I'm all bananaed out. Les is saying, so the ceasefire is over, right? Okay, Les, from the BBC, I'm going to give you this from the BBC. So the official ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, I believe that has stopped, and I believe that is holding. But there's armed conflict right now in Gaza. Clashes have erupted between Hamas forces and armed clans. Now, I don't know what armed clans means. That's what the BBC is reporting. This is in Gaza City. 27 people have been 27 people have been killed, and I can only assume that the number would be 27 times 7 people who have been injured. Just as a rough rule of thumb. Now, if that's I believe that ceasefire is over, because guess what? They're still fighting. The ceasefire with Israel, I believe, is holding, but the armed conflict is still raging inside Gaza City itself. Templar Matt is saying, I've heard the market is going to crash tomorrow. Oh, I hope not. Do you know what? I don't actually care. How is that going to, guys, do people have money in stocks and shares? Like, all my money's in real stuff. Like, real stuff you can count and, like, hold, you know. So I know a lot of people get money in stocks and shares. A lot of people with, go on, pensions and stuff. Their pension, like a lot of people's pension will be, like, tied to stock markets and stuff. Slim is saying the British Empire in Africa in general and Uganda in particular. Right, what are we talking about? Right, what's going on in here? Right, I'm just going to check this chat, guys. What's going off in this chat? Philip Gray is saying, Sean, we've been infiltrated in this country for many years. I agree. It's only because we've had an exceptional military intelligence that there hasn't been more attacks. Yeah, we've not just been infiltrated. Was you on the live stream this morning? I did the maths. So I did the maths this morning, and our water companies, and guys, this is wild. This is going to blow your mind. Like, you're going to get your mind, you're prepared to get your mind blown. With my rudimental Raven maths, I might be wrong. I don't think I am. I'm certainly not meaning to mislead. 15, well, let's have the facts. 15% of, as an article from 2022 done by The Guardian, says that 15% of the UK's water infrastructure is owned by unknown entities. So that means that 15% of the UK are paying their water bill, and we don't know where that money is going. No idea. No idea. Now, I did the maths. I couldn't find out the precise maths. So what I did is I got the average water bill in the United Kingdom, which was like 603. Amount of people in England, not the UK. The amount of people in England, which was like 54 million or something. So 54 million times 603, it came out at like 39 million. I can't remember I can't remember the exact math, but the outcome, the end result that we got was 5.1 billion pounds of our money leaves this country that we think's being spent on utilities, but we don't know where that money's going. And what I was doing, I was just giving the scenario that could our enemies have actually bought our infrastructure, and they're using our own money to fund a war against us. I mean, wouldn't that be a fantastic asymmetric move? Honestly, guys, wouldn't that be a fantastic scam? Can you imagine them like in the office? Can you imagine them in the office? Like, Yoda, how do we infiltrate United Kingdom? I don't know. They are putting utilities up for sale. What? Why don't we buy utilities? What do you mean? Think about it, Vova. We buy utility, we make tidy profit, and we use money to fight back against United Kingdom. We destroy capitalist pig. Okay, Yora, I like your thinking. Bring the vodka. You know, like, you've got to start asking logical questions. That's a lot of money, and that's our money, and that leaves the country. Gone. Gone diddly don. Gone diddly don, never to come back. Right, you guys know, guys, look into Keir Starmer, all right? I would say Keir Starmer is massively subverted. Right, let's continue, guys. Let's continue. So, guys, listen, if you're joining us for the first, you know what? We're in 40 minutes, and I've not even asked you guys to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching right now, can you like, follow, subscribe, the bell notification, whatever those buttons down there are, guys? So I really appreciate each and every one of those little taps. We're talking about the violence that's just broken out in Gaza. The ceasefire is over, in Gaza. Armed clashes between Hamas and armed clans. I don't know what that means. At least 27 people have been left. Well, 27 people dead. That's what the BBC are reporting, and also the raising stakes of conflict in the Middle East. I think it's just fair to note again, guys, when we talk about Afghanistan, mineral content. There's a lot of untapped minerals in Afghanistan. Lithium, copper, iron ore, gold, cobalt, gemstones, uranium, lots of untapped. Now, it makes sense to keep that country destabilized, because if that country's stabilized, those people will start getting those minerals out, and then other countries can't get those minerals. So it makes sense to keep that country destabilized. Just as a little side note, where the lithium is Where the lithium is up north, that is in the area of Bagram Airport. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. So we're talking now about the clashes between Pakistan and Afghanistan. I want to just shift now quick and give a quick, not synopsis, a quick contextual view of what's happening between India and Pakistan. You know, we just had the 4-day war. I don't think it's over, but remember, these are two nuclear powers. So they have their own history. They have their own history of conflict. Again, remember, guys, you know, we've got huge Indian and Pakistani communities here in the United Kingdom living together. Birmingham, London, Manchester, Leicester. Like, I mean, you know, I could probably go on. Leeds. Where else? Every major city's got huge, big Pakistani and big Indian communities. That's the reality. You know, I think it was 2023. There was the big clashes between Indian gangs and Pakistani gangs because of a cricket match. So, you know, these two countries, there's no love lost if these guys have a war. So earlier this year, I think it was May. India and Pakistan fought a 4-day war. Now, this was the worst since, like, I think it. So the last time two nuclear superpowers had faced off against each other, like actually faced off, was also India and Pakistan, and that was in 1999. And so then we had it again in 2025. It started with, there was a deadly strike on tourists in Kashmir, blamed on Pakistan-based militants. And if you guys just remember what I said about the chat with the Pakistan-based militants and the Pakistani Taliban, the TTP, all this stuff is interconnected, guys. You know, India responded with airstrikes on terror camps. So we know that these terror camps are still operating in Pakistan, as per the media. Remember, guys, we need to put this into context. Bin Laden was also found in Pakistan. Pakistan hit back with drones, missiles, and cyber attacks, and about 70, I think it was 70 people got transcended to beams of light, mostly soldiers. Now, I do think this is key. A military strike will focus on soldiers. A terrorist strike will focus on civilians. All right. There is no military operation you do that says, right, lads, the purpose of this mission is to kill and capture all civilians in grid 1, 2, 3. What? Yeah, we're going to go and do the civvies in. No, I didn't sign up for this. That's not what militaries do, guys. That really isn't what militaries do. So again, I'm coming back to Israel in a minute, and so the 7th of October attack, when you get these people waving the flag saying, oh, it was a fantastic military operation by the Palestinians. Guys, stop it. It wasn't a military operation at all. I would have genuinely thought differently about this if, when those Palestinians went into Israel, they focused on military bases, they didn't hurt any civilians, they destroyed radar domes, took out airfields. That would have been a military attack. What we saw just wasn't a military by any means of the word, by any definition of the word military. Anyway. There was a peace deal brokered by the United States, and we've had a ceasefire since. However, since then, things have not really calmed. India suspended a key water sharing treaty with Pakistan. So if you guys can think about, like, a lot of water goes from India to Pakistan. Pakistan cut diplomatic ties over India's stance on Kashmir. You know, if you look at social media, there's protests and calls for mediation from Saudi Arabia or China. So what would I say the risk of more fighting? Right now, I would say it's 50-50, guys. I really would. I would say another clash between India and Pakistan really is 50-50. It is. I think it's 50-50. I don't know if it break out full-scale war where we've got tanks, but certainly more drone strikes, more air strikes, more isolated terror attacks. Absolutely. you know, because you've got to understand the history of these two countries. You've got to understand the diplomacy. You've got to understand where these people, you know, you've got to understand that these parts of the world, you know, they're not like, they have their own culture. You know, and here in the West, we think everybody's our culture, and we want everybody to have their own culture. And it's kind of a self-fulfilling doom spiral. So where does that leave us here in the United Kingdom? Where are we left in the United Kingdom? Well, the Afghan-Pakistan border is an absolute tinderbox right now, guys. It's fueled by old grudges and new weapons. We should put that on a t-shirt. Old grudges and new weapons. War is old grudges with new weapons. God, we need to get a t-shirt printer, don't we? We really need a t-shirt printer. Honestly, guys, I astound myself sometimes. I sit here. I don't get them every live stream. What was the other one we did? I wrote it down. We've shackled ourselves. I can't remember. But that's it. Oh, guys, war is equal to old grudges with new weapons. God, that'd make an awesome t-shirt. Anyway. India and Pakistan really are walking a tightrope at the moment, guys. You know, you've got the Kashmir, you've got the water disputes, which are keeping the stakes high. If you're here in the United Kingdom, you know, just ask yourself right now, if you live in the United Kingdom, do you know where there's a Pakistani community? Do you know where there's an Indian community? You know, and do you think there's a likelihood of and right now, do you know where the Afghan communities are? Because remember, these Afghan communities are popping up in the United Kingdom. They're popping up everywhere. So if you live in the United Kingdom, we have these communities living among us. And when these things happen in a far off land to you, and, you know, sometimes even to me, we look at them and we're like, oh God, yeah, look at that. But for people who live there and people who are seeing their hometowns burnt down, again, you know, they fled those hometowns. So I'm like, well, if you're that passionate, go back there. Really? If you're that passionate about it, go back. Absolutely fine. You know, you shouldn't have left in the first place. If you want to start a new life with a new culture, we'll look after you. And we don't do that shit. We don't have marauding gangs killing 27 people and just think it's okay. We don't do that shit here. All right? If you want that, go back there. If you don't, fine. Absolutely fine. But what I'm getting here is, guys, as these tensions build up and as the conflicts break out, you're going to see this flow out onto the street of the United Kingdom, like we've already seen in, you know, various locations, you know, around the United Kingdom. Anyway, let me jump over, guys, and get some of these comments. Paul Lloyd is saying, I can't tell who immigrants are, Syrian or Afghan. Just ask them. Excuse me, mate. Are you Syrian? Are you Afghan? You know, they'll answer you. They'll, you know, don't be rude. Breaking news: mass shooting at a crowded bar in the. Yeah, I think this is. Yeah, I think. Yeah. So there's been a shooting in the United States. I think 4 people have been. Yeah, right. 4 people have been shot. I think this was like a couple of hours ago. What was that? You all went to bed with the other night when Sean uploaded, but I fell asleep. I don't know what that means. Amir Cricket is saying the UK always could take note from Nepal. They just had a revolution. They elected a new leader in Discord. So hang on a minute. So the Nepalese had an election on Discord. I mean, guys, that's next level. That is next level democracy shit. Lisa Jane is saying, I've been on this channel for some time now. I never used to join in, but thank you, Lisa Jane. You're most welcome. It's fantastic. There's so many coming in like-minded. We all get, oh, well done. Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. today I'll be selfish and ask you guys to pray for Israel. I don't think that's being selfish. In around 8 to 48 hours, our hostages supposed to come back home. Please pray it'll happen. Yeah, look, guys, you know, I just hope, honestly, like, I can't imagine what those families have been through, the Israeli families, you know, it's just insane, you know. And what we've got to understand is, like, I'm going to give you guys like a UK perspective, and obviously it's not everybody in the United Kingdom. I think the majority of people in the United Kingdom are, like, you know, pro not taking hostages and pro not massacring people. But this, we've got a really peculiar situation in the United Kingdom right now, where on the 7th of October 2023, literally we had people out on the streets celebrating. Literally within a couple of within a couple of hours, I reckon. While the attack was still going on, basically, there were people, while people were still being butchered in Israel, we had people on the streets of the United Kingdom celebrating. That's the reality. I'm not, you know, that is the hard, cold truth. Those people, the very next day, were out being anti-Israel protesters, saying, "Oh, Israel, show restraint, show restraint, show." Israel had not done anything. Literally, the Israelis had done nothing. Literally, they'd just been attacked. Then you know, these same people have been anti-war protesters, and now the war's stopped and there's a ceasefire. Although the ceasefire in Gaza does look like it's broken because there's militant groups shooting each other, so you can't say there's a ceasefire. These people are out on the streets again protesting, and what I think they're really protesting about is they don't want a ceasefire if it was brokered by Donald Trump. I think they want it to be brokered by someone else. So I think they're willing to let people get blown up and shit as long as Donald Trump's not involved. That's kind of like, I can't see any other reason why these people would be on the streets protesting. I really can't, guys. I have no idea what these guys are out on the streets protesting about. Amanda Bullen is saying, if the hostages are returned, would the second stage progress? I pray for all innocent human life. I don't even want to think about I mean, there's 3 stages. I mean, look, if they can't police themselves, what hope do they have? And it's clear they can't police themselves, because I'll read you this again. And look, guys, I've got to be very careful what I say because I don't want to get the video banned. So here we've got this scenario where armed clashes have broken out in Gaza City, and I'm reading this off the BBC. Clashes erupt between Hamas forces and armed clan members. Again, guys, I don't know what armed clan members means. I really don't. I don't know if they're Scottish or what. What I'm getting at here is, like, is it safe to leave those guys on their own? If you leave them and you're not throwing airstrikes in there and you leave them, is that really safe? You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me, guys. It doesn't make any sense to me. So what you've got to put this in, like, the bigger picture. First of all, guys, first and foremost, okay, for me as a father, as somebody who's been in the military, just get those hostages back. Just get those hostages back. If you want a war, don't take hostages. It's a dick move, guys. It's a dick move. Get those hostages back to their families. And then if these guys are still fighting among themselves, somebody needs to go in there as peacekeepers. They do. Somebody needs to go in there and say, look, stop shooting each other, will you? You know, we don't want to be here. Nobody wants to be here. You know, it's very difficult to deal with it because you always get these, like, oh, hang on a minute. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amir. Thank you so much, Amir, for the super sticker. I don't know what that is. Thank you so much, Amir, for sending a super sticker on YouTube. Can I share that? Amir just sent a super sticker. Thank you so much, buddy, for your super sticker. I really appreciate super stickers. Thank you. Let me get back on there. So yeah, you know, it makes no sense, guys. It makes no sense. So the first thing for me is let's worry about stage 2 and stage 3 as soon as the hostages get back. As soon as those loved ones are back with their families, I would say reassess the whole situation, because it's kind of like, you know, right, you guys, you've got one job. Palestinians, right? Gazans, you have got one job. Don't kill each other for a couple of days because the eyes of the world are watching. Yep, okay, you sure? Yep, absolutely. We've got this. We're going to be on his best behavior. What? Stop! It's just ridiculous, guys. Just ridiculous. From now, he's saying peaceful revolution are not illegal in the UK, not yet, as the right to peaceful protest is protected by law. However, engaging in certain disruptive or violent activities during that are, yeah, look, I think what this is going to, oh, hang on. Right, there's lots of stuff falling out of the sky in America. Right, guys, I'm gonna, okay, so with these protests, I do think we're gonna get draconian laws passed. Those draconian laws are just gonna stop people protesting, and then it will just be that interpretation. Remember, we don't have a constitution in the United Kingdom. We have a series of books. We have a series of books, sorry, a series of legal documents that form the constitution, but that formation of the British constitution, it's open to interpretation. So for those people who say, oh yes, like I was arguing with some woman and she was putting it all in capital letters saying, yes, we do have a constitution. I was saying, no, we don't. Like, we definitely don't. Anyway, we don't. We have a series of documents that form the British constitution. But here's the thing. It's so opaque. It's so murky. Nobody actually knows what it means, and it's open to interpretation. Whereas the United States Constitution, it's taught in schools. Nobody's under any illusion. None of those amendments, none of those articles are up for discussion. Everybody understands the reason for that Constitution and the interpretation. So yeah, sorry. When we're talking about the protesting laws, they're open to interpretation. When things are open to interpretation, in fact, the girls are reading. Well, our eldest daughter is reading Animal Farm, and there's a bit on Animal Farm where the pigs keep changing the constitution, and because the pigs are the only ones that can read. And when somebody comes up and questions it, they say, "Oh, last week you told us that was illegal," and then they say, "Ah." And then they've changed it. So then they go, oh, right, okay, right, it's my fault. Yeah, we're the intelligent ones. Right, let me just get this, guys. Mass plane crash, Fort Worth. Right, small plane crashes into... Right, hang on. Right, I'm going for Fox News. I'm going on Fox News 18 minutes ago. Plane crash northwest of Fort Worth. Multiple semi-trucks on fire. Fort Worth Department. Multiple trucks on fire, but not known how many. There is no word of injuries. The story's developing. Right, okay, so the story's developing, guys. There's been a plane crash in Fort... That's all Fox News is giving me, guys. Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth Fire Department confirms there has been a plane crash near Hicks Airfield. Right, I'll Google that in a second and see what I can find from that. Texas, in fact, sorry. Hicks Airfield, Texas. I'll have to do Fort Worth. Fort Worth, Texas Fire Department confirms there's been a plane crash near Hicks Airfield just off Business 287 in Tarrant County. The crash happened 12,000 blocks of something Boulevard. Right, okay. Text words, I can't read them. There are multiple semi trucks on fire. Oh, what's it? A semi? Okay. but it's not known how many. All right, that's peculiar. Right, right. Let's have a look, see what I can find. Let's see what we can find. Maps. Right. Okay, so there's a pilot training school there. There's a cafe called Wing It. So there's a cafe called, well, maybe he was late to get, right, okay, right. Right, okay, so what I'm getting from this, guys, I can fly. There's a training school there, and the road that it says it was on, N Sagilawan, hang on, let me get this. Yeah, so Sagiwan Boulevard. So I'm just doing this real-time analysis, guys. This is why you guys are on. I give you things in real time. So the runway runs parallel with that Sagiwan Boulevard. So what I'm suspecting is, and what I'm speculating is, there's a flight school there as well. So what I'm speculating is an aircraft's coming to land, and because of the proximity, they've got confused and thought the road was the actual runway or something like that. And I'm just saying that because the runway and the road literally run parallel to each other. That's my initial thoughts. I don't see anything else around. It's very close to the fire station. I don't see anything else around there, but I don't know, guys. That's just my initial reaction. I don't think it's a big aircraft. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was my real-time analysis. Right, you guys on TikTok, I'm going to close you guys down now, and I'm going to jump over to YouTube, where I will continue this live stream on YouTube. I'll get the rest of the comments, and we'll close it down on YouTube as well. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, because if you guys are not going to jump over to YouTube, I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10, and we'll discuss all the shenanigans that have happened over the last 12 hours or whatever. I am going to keep my eye on these clashes in Gaza, guys, because it's like, it's just escalating. It's just going to get out of control there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen on TikTok, I am going to close you guys down now, and I will see you guys back tomorrow morning. And for those of you guys who've not following me on YouTube, I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube also, and the link is in my bio. I'll see you guys later. Right, we've closed those down. We've closed those guys down. Right, we talked about that. Let's get down to the bottom. From now, it's saying reports that people are securing their homes in the UK more than ever before, driven by concerns and a feeling that they cannot rely on police. Yeah, so I saw an article, like, you know what, let me try and find it for you. It was quite funny. Yeah, so so this was an article from The Guardian in May 2025, and the headline is "People are buying." No, I don't consent. People are buying crossbows faster than I'd like. How prepping went mainstream in Britain. Once again, getting ready for the apocalypse was. Sorry. Once getting ready for the apocalypse was for the paranoid. Now, in the face of cyber attacks, climate breakdown, and nuclear threats, the UK government recommends it. Should everyone have a survival kit? And the article goes on and it talks about like what people are actually buying. And, people in the United Kingdom, look, we don't have firearms in the UK, and I don't know how some of these crossbow. Look, guys, I would not recommend buying anything with a projectile on it. Like, just don't do it. All right. Your best defense in the United Kingdom is not to be there. Like 100% of the time, your best defense is not to be there. I worked in the Middle East for a long time. I worked like for 5 years in Baghdad. Is like, we had a fully armed team. I never once had any trigger time, guys, and that comes down to like not being there when things kick off. And that comes down to not planning and that comes down to planning. Planning comes down to experience, and experience you only get from bad decisions. Yeah, so a lot of people in the United Kingdom were buying crossbows and bows and arrows and stuff, and it was just wild. It was wild listening to what people were buying. Positive programming is saying, did you know you can own a samurai sword if you're a martial arts, but you can't own a ninja sword? I know that I don't. So there's a, my friend's actually in Kiev at the moment, and there's a samurai bar in Kiev. It's on Mikhaileska. I was trying to tell him how to get to this samurai bar, but I didn't know it was a samurai bar. I thought it was a ninja bar. I'm saying, mate, it's a ninja bar on Mikhaileska, and he's saying, Sean, there's no such thing. I'm saying, mate, I've been there loads. It does like the most amazing whiskey sour you've ever had. And he's saying, Sean, is this it? I said, yeah, that's it. And he's saying, that's a samurai. And I'm saying, what's the difference between a samurai and a ninja? I don't know. Like, I don't know. They both got swords and stuff. From now, he's saying Longbow did well at Agincourt. Have you seen that guy on YouTube? And he's like he's like a longbow master. Honestly, this guy is absolutely wild. He's like Legolas. Like, people fire arrows at him and he catches them out of the air and he restrings it and fires. Like, it's just wild. Like, the amount of time he spent with that bow and arrow, he's definitely independently wealthy. Freddie is saying, fears of Putin's little green men lurking on NATO's frontier with Russia sparks broader closures to prevent escalation. So obviously what Freddie's talking about there is, the Russians building up troops. I think this article is actually talking about Finland. If you guys can remember back in, was it February? I think it was February 20, February 2014. February 2014, I think it was February, it might have been March. That was when the annexation of Crimea happened. And for those of you guys who can remember, just cast your minds back, right? All the mainstream media were going, oh, no, it's not Russians. Oh, no, these are not Russians. Who are they? Who are these people? They're in Russian trucks with no registration numbers. They're in Russian military uniforms, but with no insignia. They're carrying Russian weapons, and they're speaking Russian. Who could they be? I thought it was the Scandinavian Fishermen's Guild, but, it turns out it wasn't. But what we're getting at here is, we know these things are plausible because they've happened before. And one of the scenarios I used to give people, well, I still give it, is NATO Article 5 doesn't really do anything. If there was a flash advance into like a border town on Finland or something, like a small border town, and the Russians went in, blitzkrieg, had a vote, right, you lot are going to vote to be Russian. It's all over and done within 48 hours. Like, there's going to be no repercussions from that. Nothing. There's nothing that NATO can do. All Article 5 says is, they'll come together and take what action necessary to bring peace and stability. Well, if in the time it's taken to convene that Security Council, they've already had a vote. I know that we're pushing it with time, but you guys, doesn't really give much protection. Band again is saying Lars Anderson. Yes, that's him. Lars Anderson, yeah. Best archery expert in the world, trick shots galore. Yeah, that was him actually, Lars Anderson. You're right. I used to watch him and I was like, he's clearly independently wealthy because like nobody can spend that much time with a bow and arrow that's like got a day job. Lisa Jane is saying the only weapon I have is a Hoover. The house catching spiders fantastically. Lisa, is that because you're a woman? Like your role is just to hoover up? Is that what you're saying, Lisa? Oh, hang on a minute. Templar Matt is saying samurai swords are hand forged by a master sword maker and are still legal to own. Guys, I don't know anything about this. I never got issued a sword when I was in the military. Freddie is saying Russia could attack NATO sooner than intelligence expects. Guys, do you know what? I will do an update on this tomorrow because there is a lot of information coming out. What I think we should take from this, though, and I want to tie this into what we've been talking about today. So remember, the crux of this live stream has been the absolute catastrophe that's Gaza at the moment. Gunfire is breaking out. It looks like the ceasefire is over in Gaza, and the conflict between potentially India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. It's like those guys are having a lateral three-way. Well, the British military were in Afghanistan for 20 years. 457 soldiers, tragically, passed away. Well, didn't come back. Now, think about the numbers. Think about the numbers that are involved in 1 year in Ukraine. And this is why I keep saying this war in Europe, it's on another scale, guys. It's on a totally different scale. And the sense of urgency just isn't there. The sense of urgency just is not there in our politicians, guys. They don't understand what's coming. They have got no idea what's coming. And all this posturing and bolstering, and again, you have got to do that. But all this posturing and bolstering is saying you've got to look at that from the Russian side. And the Russians are hearing the Brits say, yep, we're going to be ready. We're going to be ready in 3 years. No, well, it was 5 years. In 2022, it was 5 years, wasn't it? In a couple of months, there's only going to be a year left. So now you've got to think, if you're from the Russian side and you're thinking, right, am I going to let these guys that are telling us that they're going to strike? Whether you believe with that or not, that's what Russian media will be producing. And then they're going to obviously think, right, well, we can either wait for them to get to full strength and strike us, or we can strike them now while they're not at full strength. Silly Gallardi is saying one of our 710 heroes is a 70-year-old woman that was hostage in her home and made the terrorist not kill her and her husband with cookies and a cola zero. Rachel from Sderot, real story. You do get a lot of these, you get a lot of these like stories coming out of these war zones. I heard a story as well from some Ukrainians. Some Ukrainian special forces guys who were operating, and the Russian, I might be getting this slightly wrong, and the Russians came in, so they had to hide under turnips in one of these in the back of a farm wagon, and the farm wagon took them out, but it was being pulled on a horse, so they're on. It's wild. Sean McKay is saying the talkie started to sound like a Mortal Kombat video game. I didn't realize they did like 4 of those movies. Darren Bell is saying my Hoover is broken. It only seems to work when I plug it in. Donna Hogan is saying, right, guys, I'm gonna cover all this tomorrow morning. I'll cover all this tomorrow morning. I'll cover what's happening out there. These conflicts, they don't go anywhere. They're continuing every day. Right now, as I'm giving this live stream, in fact, right now, as I'm giving this live stream, there will be people in trenches on the Russian side, on the Ukrainian side. There's indirect fire. There's drones. There's artillery. There's tanks. There's machine gun fire. There's also that's happening right now. Right now, that is happening. The weather's closing in. Guys, it's pretty much hell on earth right now. Because the weather's closing in right now and it's slow, you're starting to get this like mud slop. It's dirty, guys. It's a dirty war at the moment. It's an industrial war, and it's going to be industrialized. I'm going to cover all this tomorrow, guys. I will. I'll cover it all tomorrow. Right, guys, listen. I am going to close this down now. On the context of this video, the crux of this video. In fact, let me see if there's been a live update. Starmer lands in Egypt for peace plan summit. He's been going off, hasn't he? Saying that it was the British that negotiated the ceasefire, and then some, like, I think the US foreign minister or something, or foreign, I don't know what they're calling it in America, came out and said absolutely not. That's absurd. So look, guys, the crux of this live stream has been ceasefire in Gaza. Looks like it's in Gaza City. Looks like it's over. There armed clashes have erupted between Hamas forces and armed clan members. Again, I don't know what that means, armed clan members. What we do know is the BBC reporting at least 27 people killed. So that's a big clash, guys. That's not a small clash. That is a big clash. Also, the escalating tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan and the likelihood of drawing India into that conflict, with the context of the Pakistani, Afghani and Indian communities that are in the United Kingdom and the likelihood of those guys coming to a clash. Also, just real quick, guys, I want to throw this in the works as well. There's this peace summit, this peace plan summit tomorrow in Egypt. Now, I'm not really giving this much. I'm not really giving this much bacon, but if there was ever a time to try and take out Donald Trump, it's going to be in Egypt tomorrow. That's when it's going to be, guys. You know, I'm not saying that the teams around Donald Trump are not well capable to handle anything that the whole of the Egyptian military can throw at them, because they really are, guys. You know, you're talking about, the guys who are on the Secret Service will all be, especially the ones who are on Donald Trump's, on the president's team, they will all be ex-Tier 1 Special Forces guys with a ton of experience. So those guys will be able to use any weapon system, any explosives, sniper rifles, assault rifles, machine guns. There's nothing that those guys won't be able to use. They've got Air Force One, which I would assume is a fortress and has the capability to hold down Donald Trump. They're going to have armored vehicles there, so I don't see. I see the likelihood as low, but it's going to be a high low, if that makes sense. Certainly, nobody's going to try and take out. Well, nobody's going to try and take out Donald Trump in the United States. He says after somebody tries to take Donald Trump out in the United States. But I do feel it is a critical location, Sharm el Sheikh, because geographically they're on the Red Sea. You have lots of hostile countries around. You also have Sharm el Sheikh itself. You have like one road in from the north and one road going out to the west. So it is, when you're in Sharm el Sheikh, it's beautiful Sharm el Sheikh, but like just outside Sharm el Sheikh, it's kind of just nothing, just desert, like literally nothing. So that we want to watch more. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, guys, listen, I am going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Listen, guys, I'm going to do a Ukraine update tomorrow morning. I'm going to give all things Ukraine within the last few hours. Because, things are moving forward a lot quicker than is being reported on the mainstream. Certainly a lot quicker than things should be reported on the headlines. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys in the morning.